There is something deeply wrong with how modern society understands winter, and that misunderstanding becomes deadly the moment the power goes out. A single grid failure turns comfortable homes into ice boxes within hours. Pipes burst, heating systems collapse, and families panic. Yet, for medieval peasants, winter was not an emergency state. It was a predictable, engineered season. They didn't survive by luck. They survived because their entire way of life was designed around failure. Failure of weather, failure of crops, failure of warmth. What they built was not primitive. It was resilient, and much of that knowledge has been forgotten. Before we get into the systems that kept entire communities alive through centuries of brutal winters, take a second to support the channel. If this kind of knowledge matters to you, hit like, share this video with someone who values real preparedness, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Warfront Survival. This content survives because you keep it alive. Now, let's get into the methods that actually worked. The medieval winter was one before the first snow ever fell. Peasants understood that winter hunger was deadlier than cold. Their solution was what historians now call a perpetual pantry. Drying, salting, fermenting, and fat sealing were not food traditions. They were survival math. Drying removed moisture so bacteria could not survive. Salting created osmotic pressure that killed microbes outright. Fermentation lowered pH below the threshold where spoilage organisms could live. Fat sealing locked out oxygen entirely. Every method targeted a specific biological weakness. They stored calories, not recipes. Rendered animal fat, dried meat, nuts and grains were prioritized because caloric density mattered more than volume. They calculated winter survival in numbers, not hope. Warmth came from bodies, not stoves. Medieval homes, you see, leaked air and firewood was really quite limited. Instead of fighting physics, peasants worked with it. Families slept together because, well, human bodies generate heat continuously. Shared beds under wool blankets created stable microclimates that, interestingly, modern tests show can raise sleeping temperatures by over 20 degrees. Livestock were housed under the same roof, separated by wooden partitions, turning animals into living heaters. A single cow produced as much heat as a modern space heater running non-stop. Raised beds kept sleepers above cold air pooling at floor level, while straw mattresses trapped insulating air. Nothing was accidental. Heat was harvested wherever it naturally existed. Fire was treated as a resource that could not be allowed to die. Starting a fire in freezing conditions with numb hands was, well, dangerous and exhausting. The solution was the ash banking method. Hot, hardwood coals were compacted and covered with ash to limit oxygen while retaining heat. This slowed combustion to a crawl without extinguishing it. 12 to 24 hours later, the fire could be revived instantly. Modern tests confirm this method reduces fuel consumption by nearly half. The lesson is simple. Maintaining fire is easy. Restarting it is costly. So peasants designed systems that eliminated restarts altogether. Heat was stored, not wasted. Open hearths, lose most of their heat up the chimney, but medieval households found a clever way to convert fast heat into slow heat using stone. Dense stones were heated directly in embers, then wrapped in wool and placed into beds. These stones released warmth steadily for, 6 to 8 hours, acting as thermal batteries. This wasn't folklore, it was applied thermodynamics. Fast energy was captured, stored, and released exactly when needed most. Clothing was engineered as mobile shelter. Layering was not invented by modern outdoor brands. It was perfected by peasants. Linen against the skin, wicked moisture away, preventing sweat from stealing heat. Wool layers trapped air and retained insulation even when damp. Outer garments were full to resist wind and snow, while natural lanolin repelled water. Extremities were protected with fat-treated leather, wool and fur. Tests on reconstructed medieval clothing show core temperatures remain stable even in sub-zero conditions during hard labour. Their wardrobe was not fashion. It was life support. Snow was used as insulation, not feared as an enemy. In cold regions, peasants banked snow against windward walls. You know, snow is mostly trapped air, which actually gives it insulation values that are pretty comparable to modern materials. Just 2 feet of compacted snow could cut heat loss by about 40%. Diet was adjusted to fuel heat production. Winter meals were deliberately high in fat, since fat produces more heat per calorie and allows the body to generate warmth even while at rest. Peasants weren't overeating. They were, in fact, matching fuel to environment. Modern research confirms that, cold exposure combined with fat intake actually increases metabolic heat production. Animal fat was the ultimate multi-tool. Tallow and lard fueled lamps, waterproofed clothing, preserved food, protected skin, cooked meals, and made soap. One substance solved multiple survival problems because its properties were understood. Fat repelled water, stored energy, and even mimicked natural skin oils. Nothing was wasted because, waste was weakness. Medieval peasants were not ignorant victims of a harsh world. They were systems thinkers, operating with limited resources and zero margin for error. Their methods worked because they were integrated. Food, shelter, clothing, fire and biology all supported one another. That is real preparedness, not gadgets, not generators. Knowledge that still works when everything else fails. If you want more deep survival history that actually applies to the modern world, subscribe to Warfront Survival and share this with someone who still thinks resilience comes from technology alone. These systems kept people alive for centuries. Learning them now may matter more than we think.